Do you have an example maybe from a song that came back in a way you couldn't imagine that it would come back to you?
Actually, you know, I remember that there was a song once that I wrote when I was 19.
What was the name?
It was called Waterfall. And I didn't record it until years later. And it didn't make it onto an album until years after that. And I recorded it in Brooklyn, 2002. And, or was it 2001? 2001 or 2. And it didn't make it onto an album until 2009. And I remember when I wrote the song, though, and I was in college, and I played the song at like in front of a group of songwriters, you know, other peers, you know, a bunch of young writers. And I remember a girl came up to me afterward, and she told me that what the song meant to her. And what the song meant to her.
What did it meant to her? Do you remember?
She said that it was about her relationship with God. And I wrote it about my relationship with someone, yeah? But it made the song so much more severe when I heard her interpretation. In fact, she didn't even say, oh, that's about my relationship with God. That's how she told me that she felt it was between my relationship with God, she said to me.
Was that something important to hear? That
it was so much heavier than I had initially envisioned the song being. And so sometimes someone's interpretation of the song may make the song more severe to yourself as the writer than you had ever even imagined, you know. And it was at that moment, when she interpreted it as more severe than I had initially thought of it, because I was between me and a girl, the song. That's what it was to me. That's when it hit me that someone else's perspective of your song can make the song even more important to you, the writer, than it was before. Actually, hearing someone's interpretation of your song can make it more effective for you yourself, even when you're singing the song. It can make you more passionate. It's very heavy for me. It was the first time that I had ever felt that way, you know. And so it's interesting because there really is an art to interpreting. And when someone, even an audience member, gives you interpretation that's so incredible, even, you know, beyond that one, it can make it so much more important to you, the performer. And so I think that's why sometimes, you know, people say they don't respect certain artists because they don't write songs. They say, oh, well, they didn't even write it. Well, there are certain performers who, when they perform, it's as if they did. The interpretation is the art also, you know. And so the same way the audience member can give me a new meaning for the song that I had never intended, a great interpreter, a performer, can bring new meaning to a song written by somebody else as well, you know.
When you started realize that, was that an important step in you developing as a songwriter?
Very much, because what it did was it made me conscious of the intellect and the emotional perspective of people. People are very smart, especially when you tap into emotion and imagery and then leave it up to them to create the song as it suits their life. And then it's up to them where to place you in their life as the writer or as the performer. Depending on how you strike a chord with them, how you affect them, you take on a more or less important place in their mind, you know. And so when that hits you as a performer, it gives you, it makes you aware of your responsibility as an artist. And prior to that, I wasn't aware of the responsibility of being a writer or being an artist. Because once you hit someone's emotions, suddenly there is a responsibility there that you had not planned for.
And is that responsibility something that you always keep with you? Because it hasn't necessarily has it to be like that, I can imagine.
Well, it's not something you're conscious of at all times, but it's something that you are reminded of every once in a while when you're talking to an audience member or a fan, and someone might bring up a song, and you think to yourself, "Wow, this is incredible! Like, I actually have a responsibility here because someone views this song in a way that's so important, you know." And it does very much change your perspective as an artist. It's very heavy. And so it's sometimes a bit overwhelming, you know, to see that you could affect someone at all in that capacity. It's so far beyond what I had ever imagined my music doing to anybody, really, honestly.